Hey reefers, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about cyanobacteria in my reef tank. This video was taken back in August of 2024. I noticed cyanobacteria showing up in my tank around the end of May, I believe. So basically when the weather started to warm up, cyano started showing up in my tank. So I tried the natural method of siphoning it out during my water changes. I also did the filter sock method where you pump the water out into a filter sock back into your sump without even doing a water change, and that didn't seem to help at all. It is also recommended by the manufacturer that when you use the Chemiclean, you want to make sure to add an air stone to your tank, because I guess basically the cyano or the Chemiclean removes all the oxygen from your tank, so you want to add that back for your corals and your fishes. When I add the air stone, I want to make sure it's next to my gyres. That way it'll blow throughout the whole tank. Another cool thing about it is you get to see your flow. Basically, you get to see how crazy or how violent your flow can be in the tank with all the bubbles in there. Right now, with the sun still being out, the camera's not catching much of the bubbles. I mean, you can probably still see it, but it's not crazy, and I'll get a video of it later on tonight when you can really see the air bubbles and how violent the flow is in my tank. It's been a couple hours now. Later that night, you can see that cyano's still there. Patches are still there. They're still pretty thick. I mean, it's not going to do anything until 24 to 48 hours. You'll notice the cyano start to die off. But in this video here, I wanted to really show off the crazy bubbles in the tank. Looks like a crazy storm underwater, but I assure you everything is fine in the tank. You can never have too much oxygen in your reef tank. Oxygen is always good for your coral's health, your fish's health. And again, you can just sit back, relax, and just watch how violent your your pumps are in your tank. With this method, with the amount of air bubbles I'm putting into my system, corals are going to slime up. You're gonna notice that as well. A lot of slime just floating around, which to me it's good. It's binding, whatever you want to say it, with the air bubble, so it's gonna pull that out of your system. It's been 48 hours now, and the cyano is no longer in the system. I don't see any traces of it at all. So the Chemiclean did its job, which is expected. Now, I was very, very hesitant about using any kind of chemicals in my system. That's why I tried the natural way, which didn't work, and I'm glad I bit the bullet and said, let's just go ahead and use Chemiclean. I've seen a lot of YouTubers out there on forums, and nobody really has had any ill effects after using Chemiclean. And now it's time to do I think it's about 45 gallons I'm doing, so 1/3 of the water tank volume. When I'm doing a water change, my hose basically runs all the way down into the basement and just goes into the drain down there, so it makes it a lot easier having a long hose to do water changes. And one thing you'll notice is all the corals that are at the top right here, they're gonna be out of water. Don't worry, that's fine. Corals are out of water all the time. When we take them out to frag them, to dip them, things like that, it doesn't really do any damages in my experience to them. However, they do start to slime up when they're out of water for too long, so just be careful with that. I'd say maybe 10 to 15 minutes, the longest, to keep your corals out of water. Water change is done. Now it's time for me to fill it back up. And I do the same thing, use the same water hose. I just put a pump into my 50-gallon brute trash can to push the water back in. And when I'm doing that, I make sure the water hose line is aimed at the glass and not at any corals. It could affect the corals and make them slime up, or you could easily just knock it over if you fill up the water and aim the water hose pressure at the coral. You can see no trace of cyano anywhere on the rocks or on the sand bed, anywhere like that, but you can see corals are sliming up, and like I said, it's natural, it's normal, don't worry too much about it. And this is one thing I add as well after a water change, the Microbacter 7, just to add bacteria back into the system. I'm not 100% sure if it's necessary or not, but I had a bottle lying around, might as well use it, and I don't see any issues with it. It's been about 7 to 8 days now after using the Chemiclean, and everything in the tank seems to be fine, nothing wrong. Again, a lot of people use this stuff at least once or maybe twice a year just to clear out their system, but I really don't want to use anything and just a little bit more scared to use it. But as you can see here, everything seems to be fine. All the fishes are swimming happy, everything's good, the corals look nice. So if I can give an advice, if using Chemiclean, just make sure you add an air stone to add oxygen back into your system, because a Chemiclean does remove oxygen and it could be bad for your corals and your fish. So please make sure you add an air stone to your system when using the Chemiclean.